Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for September 8th. September 8th is the 251st day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 252nd in leap years, with 114 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is eidetic. Eidetic is an adjective that means marked by or extraordinarily accurate and vivid recall, especially of visual images. You could think of it as a fancy word for photographic memory. Interestingly, and I didn't know this before, but it makes sense, that researchers who look into this sort of thing find this quality fascinating. It's said that the late television comic Jackie Gleason had an eidetic memory, which allowed him to memorize an entire half-hour script in a single read-through. Wowza. The word eidetic comes to us from Greek. First known use of the word eidetic is around 1924. Eidetic. The word eidetic was suggested by one of my viewers. Thank you so much. If you have a word you'd like us to explore in this Word of the Day section, let me know in the comments and we'll take a look at it. And with that, Michelangelo's sculpture of David was unveiled in the Piazza della Signoria in Florence, Italy on September 8, 1504. An amazing piece of work, David was carved from a single huge block of Carrara marble and stands 5.17 meters or 17 feet in height. Originally planned as one of the statues in a series depicting the 12 apostles for the Florence Cathedral, David was instead brought to the public square in front of the Piazza della Signoria and unveiled there, where it stood until 1873 when it was moved to the art gallery Galleria dell'Accademia in Florence. A replica of the original was placed at the original site in front of the Piazza della Signoria in 1910. The statue had been in the works for a good while, begun in 1465 by a protege of the artist Donatello. Work on David stopped the following year, though, when Donatello died. Attempts to commission another sculptor were on again, off again for the next several decades, while the unfinished block lay out in the elements in the yard of the cathedral workshop. Leonardo da Vinci was consulted about the work. A sculptor named Andrea Sansovino was interested in the project. Michelangelo Buonarroti was able to convince those in charge that he was the man for the job at the tender age of 26. He got the contract in August of 1501 and began work the following month. As work progressed, officials realized that this huge statue, which weighed about 8.5 tons, would be impossible to hoist to the roof of the cathedral as originally planned, so they began discussing alternate locations for it, ultimately settling on the Piazza della Signoria, there in Florence, Italy, where it was unveiled on September 8, 1504. We're going to do quite the time hop now from 1504 to 1900, where I will remind you to keep your be careful on because we're going into hurricane season. And there sure enough was a powerful hurricane that hit Galveston, Texas on September 8, 1900. It was a bad one, Cat 4 that one, known as the Great Galveston Hurricane, the Galveston Flood, or the Great Storm of 1900. There may be other names for it as well. That was the deadliest natural disaster in the United States history, with somewhere between 6,000 and 12,000 fatalities before it was all over. Destroyed about 7,000 buildings, including homes and businesses. We do have an advantage now of highly advanced weather forecasting, satellite imagery, and robust communication and warning systems, and we have a benefit of improved materials and techniques in building construction in order to construct buildings that are more resistant to weather conditions. That said, keep your be careful on as we go into hurricane season. This is the birthday of Virginia Patterson Hensley, born September 8, 1932. If you don't recognize that name, perhaps you'll recognize her professional name, Patsy Cline. Back in those days, music artists often got their start performing on local radio station. We've mentioned this before. Patsy got her start as a teenager, just 15 years old. She cut a few records and was invited to be on the Arthur Godfrey Talent Scout Show, which was a live radio and TV show that aired in the 1940s and 50s. And how they did that was Mr. Godfrey would have up-and-coming but as yet unknown artists on the show to perform. And the winner of each show was chosen by what they called an applause meter. We'll hear a little bit more about that in a minute, though. Patsy Cline is rightly considered to be one of the most influential vocalists of the 20th century. She certainly had a distinctive voice and delivery and was one of the first country music artists to cross over into pop, an amazing talent. She had at least a half dozen major hits from 1957 to 1963 when, to the crushing heartbreak of her fans, Patsy Cline died in a plane crash on her way back to Nashville at the age of 30. Of course, there's so much more to her life and experience. She's been portrayed in movies. There's been a 1985 biopic about her called Sweet Dreams, starring Jessica Lange. The late, great Patsy Cline, an amazing talent. The landmark American science fiction television series Star Trek premiered on September 8, 1966. The first aired episode was called The Man Trap, and without giving too much away, the blurb says, "A shape-shifting, salt-craving creature terrorizes the crew of the Enterprise." You can find clips of it all over YouTube, and if you're really curious, whole episodes of Star Trek online. Now, if you'd like to see about anything else I might have talked about in a previous episode for September 8th, I'll leave a link here to one of those for you. Today's song is Walkin' After Midnight by Patsy Cline. Written by Alan Block and Don Hecht back in 1954, the song was initially offered to singer Kay Starr, but her label declined. A couple years later, Mr. Hecht pawned his furniture to raise money to get a demo record made. A singer named Lynn Howard was the voice on that one. He brought that demo record to Patsy Cline's producer. Patsy wasn't wild about the song at first. There was another song she liked better called A Poor Man's Roses or A Rich Man's Gold. And the trade-off was that if she would sing Walkin' After Midnight for the A-side, she could do Poor Man's Roses for the B-side. So that was in the works when she was invited to perform on a show called Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts in January of 1957. She wanted to sing Poor Man's Roses for the show, but the show's producer wanted her to sing Walkin' After Midnight, which she did, and the audience loved it. When I went to look for a link to the song, I found one of the audio from that Arthur Godfrey show. We get to share in her surprise and delight when she wins the night. She later re-recorded the song with a few slight differences, but this version, the one she sang on Arthur Godfrey, is the one that really brought her to the attention of the public and became her first major hit single. The success of Walkin' After Midnight from Ms. Cline was pivotal, by the way, in her crossover from country to pop. Walkin' After Midnight by Patsy Cline. Link in the description. And I'll just let you know that that link, Walkin' After Midnight, is the first song, and it's actually a collection of Patsy Cline songs. So once she's done with that song, it'll go right into another one. So just be aware of that when you click that link. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That description lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include a link to my blog page that is called No Really. And you can also find me on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Oh, get your microphone. Okay. Phone over there. Hello. begins with 202 days remaining to the end of the world. End of the year. Please, not the end of the world. 202 days remaining to the end of the year. Let's read that one again. Maybe I should ask Google how to pronounce that.
How do you go about pronouncing his name? Paulo Coelho. Paulo Coelho. Pretty straightforward once you know. Paulo Coelho.
Google is so smart. Yep, it is. That's what it's called. All right. Attracting. Just read the whole thing over. You know what? Maybe we can leave that one off. Don't alienate people who can be helpful to you. Flinging happiness all over the place. I don't know. Can I get this edited? Let's find out. Alrighty. Back to work. I think we got it this time.